Welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University BA Geography First Year Unit 11 KRAST Topography by Dr. D. Sabita, Assistant Professor, Department of Geoinformatics, Telangana University. Today we are going to study about the another landforms which are made by the underground water. That is nothing but topography of karst. Geography is basically studied under physical and human geography. The study of earth is based on the physical settings or the human activities. Now here physical settings are further divided into the oceanographic studies, geomorphology and climatology. Under geomorphology, that is nothing but study of changes of surface of the earth or transformation of the earth is studied under the geomorphology is endogenetic forces or exogenetic forces. Endogenetic forces are the forces which are acting below the earth's surface in the process of transformation of the earth's surface, whereas exogenetic forces are the forces in continuation or in connection with the atmosphere. The sources or the agents of erosion transform the surface of the earth. These are exogenetic or above the surface of the earth. These exogenetic surfaces are basically transformed with the help of weathering. Weathering is nothing but cutting down of the material, and mass wasting is shifting of the material from one place to another. Erosion, whatever material is broken down with the help of mechanical action and also chemical action or biological action, are transformed or transmitted to some other place. So in this way, whatever elevations are there on the surface of the earth are cut down by the agents of erosion, and they are deposited in the low lying area with the help of agents of erosion. So basically we have different types of agents of erosion based on the work they take on, like running water which flows on the surface of the earth and cut down the material with the help of its velocity and force, and underground water which penetrates down into the interior with the help of the permeable rocks, pores, and this penetration of water also dissolves the material and deposits the material inside the caves. The glaciers act as agents of erosion by plucking down with the help of the melting or the with the help of thawing of the material surface material, and the wind act as the erosional agent by plucking out the material and hitting the material with its velocity and try to cut down the surfaces which are objecting its way. However, waves also act as a erosional agent. They try to cut down the material, rock structures with its force movement and then deposit these material into the shorelines. So, out of all these things, basically the mechanical action is seen in all the agents of erosion, whereas in this karst topography especially we see the chemical action or reaction of the material which are confronting each other and transforming the landforms above the surface and also the below the surface. So, karst is the Kars word picked up from the Slovia, which means plateau, and it is the typical topography which is giving away the subterranean transformation of the earth's surface. That means the characteristics of this landform is totally created by the mere shear deposits of the limestone which is eroded from the surface of the earth and deposited into the caves of the surface of the earth. So here the main action is done as a soluble rocks. So what are the soluble rocks? The soluble rocks are limestone and dolomite. The calcium carbonate with the limestone or with the lime is called as limestone, or the carbonate which mingles or which reacts with the magnesium gives out the dolomites. So both the rock formations give away a good terrain for the soluble or the solution of the rock with the help of water. The water which is flowing onto the surface reacts with the carbon dioxide in the air, and this forms a acidic water, a tangy acidic water, which has the ability to dissolve the limestone or dolomite which is there on the surface of the earth. So over a period of time, then this water regularly flows onto the limestone region, tries to pick up or erode the solution and picks down to the slopes down. So over here, the most important sedimentary rocks you can see which have this soluble rock formations, they are limestone, dolomites, gypsum, rock salt, marbles, and a number of other sedimentary rocks. So over here the rock has to be permeable, and the karst formation can be formed by infiltration and dissolution of the water and carbon dioxide, which transform the limestone into a swallows or the sink holes. So the permeable rock which transforms into cracks and fractures and pores allow the water to penetrate down. The stream which was flowing till then, when it enters the limestone area, tries to ruin or erode the features or the limestone along its stream. This eroded material brought down to the lowest area, and wherever the evolution or the erosion is more, the area tries to picks up the holes and the water or the stream gets disappeared. So this is the karst topography which is found near the Yugoslavia, near the Adriatic Sea, where the karst means the plateaus in Slovenia, and these are the areas near to the Balkan, adjacent to the Balkan Sea of Adriatic Sea. So these are the very rich calcium prone area where number of water streams, they just get disappeared into this limestone region, becoming a swallow hole, and then this swallow hole, when the material transforms the fractures into further bigger fractures, and the deposited material is eroded and carried out into the caves. So these are the typical landforms. We feel very interesting by seeing these cave formations, wherein we have some pillar types, some drapes, some sharp openings coming up, some pillars coming up, and all of them are the landforms which are created by the dripping down of the water. Water is evaporated and the material is deposited in the form of drapes or limestones or pillars, stalactites, stalagmites, and columns. Sometimes when they become a very crystalline in nature, they also become a marble stones of crystalline nature of a sharp transparent landforms. So this is the landform overall. This is some 500 miles across the Yugoslavian topography, where you can see all the caves which are not made by man, they are naturally made by the underground water. It takes some hundreds of years to transform these limestone into the cave transformations. So complete limestone area has been transformed with the running underground water, which is picking out the material and trying to get down through joints, leaving away the material in the form of stalactite, stalagmite, drapes, pinnacles, etc. So this is a very typical landform which has lot of cavity inside, and any physical or any single pressure on this land may lead to a collapse of complete scale of caves. So the solutional process is basically based on the calcium carbonate. Calcium with limestone is the limestone region, and calcium carbonate with the magnesium is the dolomite rock stones. So all the water which is penetrating, which is flowing on the surface of the earth, move on the surface of the earth till it dissolves and makes a holes. So as and when the joints are penetrating the water, these joints become smaller holes. These holes become bigger and bigger as the erosion takes on its work. So as the holes increase, the funnel shape sink holes transform into swallow holes. So the sinkhole is a place where water stream gets disappeared, and the swallow hole is a place where water gets down into the cavity. So superficial feature is the sinkhole. When it increases, number of sinkholes increase on the surface of the earth, they are known as dolines. And when you have number of dolines collapse, because number of sinkholes coming on the surface becomes a fragile landform, and this becomes a fragile and breaks down and fall down, they are known as ualas. The steep edged ualas are known as polges, where you have the basin, transparent basin, and the steep sided pillars which are having a subsurfacial surfaces which will be having a polge. So over here, the sinkholes which are making a creeks on the surface of the earth, and then these creeks are getting the material and the water is penetrating down through the sinkholes. These sinkholes become evident depressions wherever the material is left out without the erosion, they are known as the pinnacles. The pinnacles are the residual limestone features just left out as a ridges or hills in the area, whereas sinkholes are the area where the water is disappearing and the stream gets down into the cracks through the swallow holes. So these swallow holes penetrate through the cracks and fractures of the rocks, and the water is going to the gravity and flows down into the cave. So underground drainage system is developed over here. The stream which is flowing on the surface through the sinkhole passes to the caves. So suddenly these streams which are flowing from the higher elevation to the down through caves, now suddenly they appear on some other place in the openings of the impermeable rock. So these are known as springs. So sudden appearance of a water flow that is coming from the higher elevation passing through the cave, again it is coming on the impermeable rock and as a springs. So they are also known as the aquifers, where you have the saturation of the water in the rocks and suddenly the water appear in the rock surfaces. They are known as aquifers. They are the sudden water appearance. This water is picked up from the higher elevations through the sinkholes. Here we can see the regolith, the basic land. This is the regolith, original rock, permeable, impermeable rock. The rock is not allowing water to penetrate. This is the debris which is filled out in the regoliths, but this is the limestone below it. Wherever you have the limestone openings, the water is trying to erode this land, and the calcium carbonate or the limestone or the dolomite is eroded, and the water is trying to penetrate through the cracks or the joints of the rock. So this limestone material is also carried out through the water into the caves or into the underground. So this water which is coming onto the surface and trying to sink down in the sinkholes in the form of sinkholes or swallow holes, here when it is coming in between two valleys, from two valley streams are flowing and suddenly the stream gets disappeared in the valley. This is also known as the blind valley, wherein there is no further stream continuation. So where this disappeared stream is going, this is going into the sinkhole through the swallow hole. When you have a basin type of sinkholes are the sinkholes where you have bigger hole and a small funnel. Whereas if you have a small funnel and a vertical swallow hole, it is known as a vertical shallow hole. So in this swallow hole, the water gets into and also the material above it is brought down. Wherever the material is eroded, it is become a creeks. They are known as the limestone creeks, and wherever the material is left out, they are known as pinnacles. These pinnacles can be in a rectangular shape or in a circular shape. So they will be, the water will be penetrating into in the form of with the support of joints and fractures, and water tend to pick up all the material down. So whatever material is there, it is trying to deposit along wherever it is flowing, and wherever you have number of sinkholes coming together forming a doline. This dough line again, when it is more number of dough lines increase, it is known as Uvala or the karst window. So, number of caves are originated because water is passing through and the material is eroded over here. Finally, water is again coming down and getting away in the form of springs in low lying areas some kilometers away from the original water source. So, the chemical component of the water will be different from this local area, and the chemical component of the water is similar to the some region far away from this. So, this shows that water is coming from some other area, it is captured into the underground and moving on to the surface in a streams or aquifers. So, you need to have a permeable rock which should allow the water to penetrate inside, and the impermeable rock which should not allow water to penetrate but come out of the surface. So, these are actually the situations where you have the springs you have in the mountainous or the hill slopes areas where you have suddenly a spring coming out of the rock. How this rock is how this water is coming? Actually, this is the water table wherein you have the saturation point of the rock, and water is not carried by the rock anymore. The water is just let out of the spring as a spring. So, these are known as the aquifers or the springs. Sometimes if the water is coming in interaction with some hot material, volcanic material, then you have a hot water flowing from these springs, they are known as hot springs. So, in this way aquifers and the water table happen to be the features of the underground water or the karst topography. So, conditions which are compulsory or conditions which are favorable for the formation of karst topography is the area should have a long, a good some kilometers or miles of stretches of limestone or dolomite. Subsurface should be completely covered by the limestone region, and the limestone region it should also be a permeable. Conditions for the formation of karst topography. So, conditions favorable for karst topography are like stretches of limestone. Limestone should be having stretches of some miles or kilometers of stretch, and subsurface should be completely permeable rock. Permeable rock which allows the fluid to flow and also have the fractures and joints which will allow the water to be penetrated down. These rocks should be dense and they should be very thinly bedded. Limestone should have a very dense in accumulation, and also they should be thinly bedded so that it will have number of cracks and joints. This area should also have a perennial water source. The water source should be continuously flowing like rivers of perennial North Indian country. And most of the important thing is it should have a moderate to high rainfall region wherein water flow is continuous. At the same time, the region should also have a good water table. Water table is the perennial source of water wherein the saturation rate of the permeable rock is high and the water is settled there. The left of the water will be acting as an agent of erosion in the underground. Mechanism of the karst topography. So, what is the mechanism? The mechanism is the solution which is brought down by the water which is plain fresh water which is interacts with the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere which is freely available, which after the reaction becomes a acidic water. So, our acidic carbonate water has a high reaction with the carbon or the calcium rocks. These calcium rocks can be easily dissolved by this acidic water, and this dissolution of calcium with the help of continuous running water will help in that solution of that chemicals. So, this calcium when it is dissolved, it tries to pass down, the water tends to move through the fractures and the cracks of the rocks, and the rock which is permeable, which is also acting as a solution, and this soluble solution which is also passing through the fractures and joints acts as an agent of erosion. It also does a dual activity of erosion and also transportation of material following the gravity. So, over a period of time, these sinkholes which are sinking with the help of solution, the streams are sinking into the hole with the help of solution, forming a swallow hole where the stream gets disappeared. This disappeared material gets deposited along the bed, and the caves are made by the continuous dissolution of the calcium oriented rocks. So, the carbonic acid which is acting as a dissolving agent and the water which is acting as a erosion agent. So, following the gravity, the material is cut down and transported to the other areas. So, here we can see that the rock bed which is having a high broken or the fractured zone, the calcium rock which is having a high fractured zone is dissolved, and also fractures are allowing water to move. So, over here the material is dissolved and also moving away. So, this takes some few years, some hundreds of years to transform this bed to completely dissolution of the material, but over a period of time, as we have seen on the earth, some millions of years where the streams have flown on the limestone have resulted into the sinkholes. The leftover material as pinnacles and number of sinkholes in one area is known as dolines. These dolines, when they fall down, give as a vent or a cast window. They give us a view of the internal cave where you have the deposits of dripstones and your stalactites and stalagmites. Stalactites are the deposits which are water when it is penetrating into the cavity, it is trying to evaporate, water tries to evaporate and solid waste get deposited to the roof of the cave. This material which is deposited to the cave slowly grows as water moves into and evaporates and the material is stored in. This stored material further grows over a period of time and they form as stalactites. These drapes transform into stalactites as the pillar grows from the above the surface or the floor, whereas this dripping of water onto the surface grow as the water evaporates. The material, some of the material is still in the water, and this material grows from floor of the cave, transforming or we can call them as the stalagmites. These stalagmites and stalactites grow over a period of time, and sometimes they give a rise as a small wall or a door, and you have number of cabins of caves. So, you can have number of cabins in the caves. When they both touch together or when they both grow and they become a pillar, then they are known as the pillar. These pillars are of some inches or some meters which are standing as a pillars in the cavity. So, these pillars or the columns, they become they are the results of the stalagmites and stalactites which are growing from either sides of the cavity. Over a period of time, this complete area transform into elevated or projected land masses of calcium, which becomes very dangerous if this one particular block falls down. The complete area becomes deformed. So, in this way, any activity, economic activity of human or biodiversity can't be appreciated in this area. So, you don't have proper soil furnished over here also to have the grasslands. So, these are mostly barren areas. If they fall down, the complete topography is so dangerous that these sharp features may kill away or damage the biodiversity. So, further if we say that we have a sinking creek, that is creek which is moving on to the surface and it also getting inside the water, getting inside the hole. So, this is the sink creek. These are the smaller springs which are coming from the impermeable rocks and they are moving on the limestone, they are forming the sinkholes. A large number of sinkholes are known as dolines, and the small vents from which we can see the interior cavity, they are known as uvalas. They are also karst windows. We have number of caves inside, and if we have a karst window, we can able to see them from above. So, you have a swallow hole wherein the water is getting inside and the water is also eroding the fractured material inside. Whatever is deposited in terms of dripstones, traverses or the underground stretches, the stalactites and stalagmites, you can see inside. So, this is how the water actually works upon, where you have the two different types of rocks. This is a permeable rock structure, this is a impermeable rock structure, wherein the water is trying to enter into permeable rock structure through joints, and water is also killing away the rock structure with the help of dissolution. The solution of material is deposited or transported to other places, and water is coming from some other different kilometers of a distance, and then it is moving through the joints of the permeable rock and reappearing on the some other place when the saturation point is attained. When you have a saturation point in the water table, then the highest level of that saturation point is your water table. So, in this way, the erosional landforms are nothing but your sinkholes, pinnacles and swallow holes, and you have the depositional landforms as stalactites, stalagmites and the pillars. So, dripstones and drapes are nothing but the needle shaped upcoming columns from the floor and also the surface of the ceiling. So, over here erosional landforms happen to be sinkholes, lapis, limestone pavements. These stalactites and stalagmites happen to be very interesting in the interior of the earth. We can see these things in India like Meghalaya, Western Ghats, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, in Andhra Pradesh also we have some of the karst topography. Further, Bastar district of Chhattisgarh is very famous for that. And further coming to the economic activity of karst topography, it is a very dangerous topography wherein the fragile landform will not allow any economic activity to take place. At the same time, the low soil surface on the surface of the earth will give a very low intensity of vegetation. A low intensity of vegetation is a result of low biodiversity. So, economic activity is very low, and karst itself says that it is a barren land, and it is very dangerous to have any economic activity without any proper planning or engineering work. It is very unstable ground. Underground drainage is very suddenly appears and suddenly disappears. Water availability we can't gauge, and caves may collapse at any time. So, finally, the underground water, the karst topography, we have very good examples of Bora caves where we have very good limestone features. These are some of the regions in the world of limestone. The human activity is very sparse, and limestone is the major quarrying industry which can be developed in this area. So, in the summary, we can say that the karst topography is favorable in the limestone regions where we have heavy rainfall, and these regions have a very less grasslands or vegetation, which results into a low economic activity. Other than cement industry, it is very difficult for any other industry to grow, but tourism happen to be a very interesting field to be encouraged in this area. So, geological surveys are very important to lay any roads or building in this area, and developmental planning is very important, without which it is very impossible for the development of any activity in the karst topography. Thank you.